What is toxicity? Is it just doing something horrible, or is it not being sure of how you've been treated? That the toxicity at workplaces has just skyrocketed because everybody is anxious, everybody is wanting to do things.
Aanshul Bafnaa, founder and CEO of the ModMonk Consultancy.
You touch business, digital, spirituality, mindfulness, how we can create a leader that can be made conscious.
Conscious leadership is something that needs to be there. If they're conscious, spiritually grounded, or they're anchored, or they're compassionate, you understand how you integrate these concepts in your life of becoming, understanding, non-judging, unbiased, getting clarity, having the courage.
How do you see this AI and spirituality with all these complexities and opportunities as well, but a lot of risks, especially with AGI coming?
It's neither good nor bad, but immensely powerful, depending on the consciousness that is guiding it. If a machine can mimic, creativity, intelligence, or empathy, will that make them human?
If you're still exploring how AI and emerging technologies will shape our future, you're in the right place. Subscribe now to stay updated about the latest conversations with industry trailblazers. Gain unique perspectives on how to fine-tune these technologies in a human-centric way. Don't miss out, join the community, and stay informed. Hello and welcome to the Dinis Guarda YouTube podcast, powered by citiesabc.com, businessabc.net, and wisdomia.ai. We keep profiling the global leaders, the thought leaders, and the people making a change in the world that is more and more disrupted and inspired by technologies, by artificial intelligence, by a lot of different things, but especially what we celebrate in this series and profile is the doers. Today, I'm particularly excited to welcome Aanshul Bafnaa, also known as ModMonk or Modern Monk, and founder and CEO of the ModMonk Consultancy. With over 17 years of experience, she is an expert in spiritual leadership and workspace spirituality, and hypnotherapy. Aanshul provides corporate training in areas such as mythology, leadership, emotional intelligence, meditation, and stress management to C-suite executives, managers, and other professionals. She also integrates practices like Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, and emotional freedom techniques, EFT, into her coaching sessions by combining teachings from the Indian knowledge systems IKS. This incorporates the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and other ancient Vedic texts into modern business practices. Aanshul also serves as a professor at the Flame University and Symbiosis Center for Corporate Education in Pune, where she teaches MBA students and professionals on subjects like business communication, leadership, and diversity. She is known for integrating spiritual wisdom into her teachings, making her sessions unique and impactful. Additionally, she mentors individuals and helps them create life blueprints for better decision-making and leadership. She is also a visiting faculty at many universities across the globe. Aanshul has also been a keynote speaker at events like TEDx and has been featured in publications like Femina, The Daily Guardian, Business World, Rediff, Pink Villa, and Pune Mirror. Books and publication. Aanshul has authored several publications including Walking Inward, A Spiritual Wanderlust, and Spirituality in the Modern Workplace. She's also working on 2 forthcoming books, Daily Spiritual Guide in Modern Life and Kubile to Consciousness. Aanshul holds an MSc in Business Psychology from the University of Westminster, UK, besides other qualifications.
Wonderful to have this fantastic new podcast show. And I'm very excited today to welcome Aanshul Bafnaa. So you have, I would say, probably one of the most amazing profiles that I brought so far, because you touch business, digital, spirituality, mindfulness, and as well consultancy. So I would say that is probably the present future of humanity, but at the moment it's very fragmented. You're putting everything together. So for us to try to present you to my audience is kind of, I would say, probably not the kind of people I've been bringing, but I'm very excited because of all your different capacities, but as well, how you assemble a lot of different things that normally in our present world are very fragmented and as well very separated. I think most of the people don't touch technology, business and spirituality, mindfulness and well-being. They might touch a bit, but not at the level. And as well, you even are someone that can touch AI and technology and spirituality and mindfulness and a lot of different things. And you are working as well with business and C-level executives to manage better these things. So my first question is, how this all started. I would say that I know that I spoke with you, and there's a lot of things that are very special when it comes to India, but probably in the Western world are very different. So a bit of your early life and what inspired you in this journey of spirituality and mindfulness.
Thank you. Thank you, Dinis. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this amazing platform. My journey began, I'm going to answer your question straight. I think my journey began, like I was talking to you before when we did meet. It began when I was very, very young. So it was around, I was 9 to 10 years old when I began the journey of spirituality and being aware as an individual as to questioning myself as to why I'm here and what am I really, what is my purpose of living? So as a young child of about 10 or 11, asking these questions is a big thing, and that is where my journey began. It began where I started to see a lot of things. I started to see those little areas where people miss out, those subtle content of conversations, those subtle information, that subtle messages that were there present in the universe while I was studying and as a young child. I think that is where my journey really began. And of course, when I grew older, about 11, 12, I say that I did my first healing work. And I worked with a doctor there who was not well. It was just a very natural way of healing. And then I realized that part, that innate part of spiritual aspect is really very strong in me. And that pushed me to learn a lot about myself, question a lot about how the universe works. That little mind had so many questions, and that kind of pulled me to reading and understanding scriptures and talking to people. And I've been very blessed in a way that I've met amazing set of people who have helped me in this journey. While I was doing that, you very well said that I have a very mixed background. I started with my medical school, did not do that, of course. I went into business and I studied my business graduation. I did my master's, a couple of them. But my interest in spirituality, in understanding consciousness, and understanding how we can bring that to modern day living. Because I lived with a dichotomy for a very long time. One part of me, my brain said that we needed to do what we needed to do in the world today. And at the other end of that dichotomy was my spiritual self, my conscious awakened that pulled me to having a monkful, quiet, blissful, calm, anchored life, I think. And that kind of churned this whole profile as what you say that I have today. I think that is where I would say that I began from. And it just continued over the years. It just kind of built on one or the other like a beautiful cake. I think it layered up. That is where I feel my journey began. I lived in London for about 8 years. I came back to India. I still continued doing this. Then I went into Vedic sciences. Now the journey seems very long, but it was very, very fruitful. And now I reach out to people, helping them bring that modern blissful life, monkful bliss in their modern life. So that's where my journey began, Dinis.
So I want to, before we go to your amazing career and the work you're doing, so you said that you started having this call when you were a child.
Yes.
I think in the Western world, and I think at the moment we have a big complexity of different cultures, different approaches, and partly the spiritual part of our society has been kind of erased. Especially as technology takes over. Of course, everyone has some connection with spirituality, religion, depending of your background, depending of your culture. But of course, something as early as that, you only see it in the films and in the books and stuff like that, unless you know people like us that are a bit more interrelated. So how did your parents react to that? And as well, from that early kind of awakening call, or at least the feelings that you had, like you said 9, 10, which were very young, early years. And as well, how that part, and then for you to study business technology, going from India to UK, and being as well working with organizations, how that assembled, because I think it's one of the challenges that we have, especially as we advance with the developing of technology so advanced, which we speak a lot in this channel, and we've been actually bringing some of the top personalities on the world on that. How do you see that part, but especially from your angle, and as well from that journey of yours?
So there were difficulties. I cannot deny that fact, because while I was growing up, of course, I come from a background, and specifically from India, where you've got to have all of these aspects, but they cannot be in your own house. They've got to be in somebody else's house. That aspect is very, very strong. And there has been a pushback from, let's say, external factors that I've lived in. But as a child, I think I was very blessed. My parents were very supportive. But I did get messages and talks which said that you are probably daydreaming things. Because when I say I see things, I could see images, and I could hear voices, and I could see colors, and I was talking to energy formats. I was talking to the leaves, to the nature, to Mother Earth. And that kind of felt, it was about 35, 40 years ago I'm talking about. And at that given moment, it felt a little odd to a lot of people. They did not really understand what I was doing. In fact, honestly, I wasn't able to understand what I was doing. Then that is the truth. I was having conversation, I was seeing things, and I was hearing things, but I was trying to make sense of it for a very long time. I did not feel myself in my own body. It felt like somebody else in the body, because I was constantly being a witness to myself. And that is the spiritual aspect that we kind of want to achieve, that we strive for, is becoming a witness to who you are, not becoming a part of that whole cosmic play. It's becoming a witness. And that is what I already was experiencing at a very young age in small spaces during the day. And that kind of brought a lot of pushback from a lot of people, thinking that I was probably imagining things. And I think that is one aspect. Another thing that you were asking was about how I kind of, took this into the mainstream, or how I probably use this to get into the mainstream that I am in business. And how did I study that? Coming from a family who is into business already, I was always wanting to study. I wanted to do hypnotherapy and understand life and understand regression and how our minds work. But of course, you got to study. India is a very, very strong country with education. So you've got to be educated, you've got to be graduated, you've got to do your master's. This is the format for India, for most families. And coming from a business family, I did my graduation in business administration. And then I moved to the UK, where I kind of opened more doors instead of shutting them, because I met many more people like me. And that is where I kind of started to blend things while I was there. Also, while I was studying business psychology, I started to blend spirituality and psychology, because I strongly feel that psychology and spirituality are not two different things. There are two sides of the same coin. You've got to be mentally, psychologically fit to experience spirituality, and you have to be spiritually skewed or inclined to be psychologically perfect and mentally stable and emotionally well. So I think that's a very wonderful blend that I think a lot of people think are opposites, but in fact, they kind of are on the same track. They're on the parallel two sides of the coin. So I feel it's actually helped me do so many different courses, different experiences, work where I worked in different places, everything has helped me to bring me where I am today. So yeah.
Very special, and thank you so much for that overview, and as well a lot of things that make us think how to take this forward. So you are the founder of the ModMonk Consultancy, and
Yes.
you provide the corporate training that blends modern corporate life and ancient spiritual wisdom. So tell us about that first, and how can executives and organizations respond to this unconventional approach?
So the ModMonk Consultancy was a baby where when I say the ModMonk, I'm called the ModMonk, is the modern monk. So trying again to build the bridge between modern lifestyle and spiritual being. So this consultancy looks at organizations, corporates, academics, universities to help individuals bring consciousness, understand spirituality, bring an anchor to their people in organizations, in teams. We evaluate, we also coach, we help individuals become more aware for decision making, for understanding where they need to go, to understand the conflict that they have, internal conflict. And I believe that when leaders or managers are not self-aware, they are not attuned with their inner self, they not only make wrong decisions, but they also kind of disrupt the team. And that is why I always say that consciousness or spirituality in management or in businesses is not a luxury to have, it is a necessity to have. And that is what the ModMonk Consultancy does. It looks at helping individuals bring individuals and workspaces to blend with spirituality, consciousness, awareness. Dharma, we say, does not mean only righteousness, but what is right for you. It helps you bring an inner silence to make better decisions, to get better results. And you cannot deny that fact. Having said that, you asked me a question as to how people responded to this. I remember once I was actually in a company. It's a multinational company, and I was talking to the CEO, and there was a couple of other people around. And when I said, let's look at conscious leadership, and I'm talking about 7 years back. And I spoke about conscious leadership, and I spoke about why spirituality is important. SQ per se, we're looking at IQ, we're looking at EQ, but why is SQ, so spiritual quotient, so important in today's world? And the response I'd gotten was, and I will never forget that, Dinis, it was, we want KPIs and ROIs, don't talk about karma. And I said, this is not about karma, and it is not about rolling stone of karma, what I do and what I'll get back. It is about you being conscious, you being aware. People in organizations do not understand that unless and until they root themselves being non-judgmental, being aware of what they're doing, they're not going to be able to succeed the way they want to. It will only remain a business. It cannot be a vision if it is not consciously driven. And that is what one of the responses I've gotten. However, now I think with thanks to people like you, Dinis, who are bringing this very on an open platform, spirituality, consciousness, awareness, these things are coming into play. Why it is important for individuals to release those patterns, release those blueprinted blocks that individuals have in their behavioral pattern, in their decision-making pattern. Why it is important to release those things and then move forward. I think now people are becoming far more aware. However, having said that, you used a very interesting word while you began this particular question was religion and spirituality. And many individuals still today, maybe corporate, maybe universities, maybe individuals, irrespective, they confuse religion with spirituality. And that's a major issue that we need to face, because we're not talking about chanting and, ringing a bell in a workspace. We're not talking about that. We are not talking about you getting onto a mountaintop and meditating there. We're not saying that. We're saying every single day we're going to do some things. We're going to shift your access anchor point. We're going to move you towards more conscious living as an individual. Then it will affect the whole world. In Indian philosophy, in Vedic, we say Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That means the whole universe is one family. One thing changes, everything else changes. And that is what I think corporates need to understand. It's not a luxury. You've got to have it. Otherwise, you're just going to run a rat race. I think then we're not really growing as individuals. We're only probably growing profits, which are made by people, and people, when exhausted and tired and fatigued and insecure and fearful, then will not be able to give you the same results that they probably gave when you began this whole business model. I think it's important that people understand.
So one of the things that is very important. So when you talk about companies and businesses, and even executives like me and like you, everyone else, we have our challenges, and challenges are how we get results, how we go through the competition, how we go through the frenetic and stressful environments that we create and that we live on. And as well, of course, this all happens right now as well with an additional level of stress that is the pace of innovation, the pace of technology, and as well how it's disrupting us. So you've been working with C-level executives, and you've been advising them and touching this. So one of the challenges we face, and you touched a bit that before, but I would like to do more, is there's elements of toxicity, there's elements of sometimes just being lost in translation. We cannot pass the message, especially if you are a C-level personality or business personality, how we can actually keep this balance, because it's very beautiful, the theory, but the practice is quite challenged. So I would like to see these challenges and some, of course, top level. What are the areas where your work help overcome this? And especially, you touch a bit that, but how we can bring this more to the business and the technology world, because we need that. Otherwise, we're going to create like a monster series, or we are actually getting that direction.
Correct. So there's a lot of stuff that you were asking me here, and I'm going to break them down. So you were speaking also about the challenge, the most common challenge that that I've faced during conscious coaching or spiritual coaching. One of the challenges, there are so many of them actually, Dinis, I cannot even begin to get the list because it's so exhaustive in terms of reaching out to people, because they always have they always have a no facade in front of them. It's difficult to reach out to them. But one of the major challenges is, and one of the most common challenges is inner restlessness. I think the ability to be still, the ability to just stay in the moment, even when they are winning. So it's, and I'm saying this openly, because it's not just when somebody is losing, or it's not when somebody is not being able to give the result, but even when they're able to give a result, I think one of the most common challenge is for people being still, or they're trying to calm themselves down. I think inner restlessness of individuals is one of the biggest challenge. And maybe executives, they are excellent problem solvers, but often they are solving the wrong problem. They're fixing market issues while ignoring personal ones. I think that is one other challenge, that they're solving the wrong issue. When you look at an issue or a problem, there is always a root cause that is that is there in a particular problem, and we as individuals tend to ignore those root problems simply because we look at something very superficial and we think, oh, this is the problem and this got to be solved. But if we break it down, and that breaking down doesn't really happen, and that is another challenge. I've worked with CEOs in Canada and in India, quite a few leaders who have admitted to constantly being up and aware and constantly being conscious about what is happening. They could not sleep without their phones nearby. And they are constant, they have a constant anxiety of how things are going to work out. And that is another challenge that we face with people in organizations, even at the senior most level, is anxiety, is inner alignment. And another thing that I also always face is when people are not able to see themselves or understand themselves as who they are. There's a lot of layers to individuals, and they're not able to really look at what they want, how they want it, what is the basics that they want of life. I think we're so confused with the glitter and gold in the world that we forget that the root is Mother Earth. The root that you are built up of is Earth and element Earth. I think that's a huge challenge. What we've done with these people, there have been multiple ways that we've kind of dealt with it. We've done breath work, we've done journaling, we've done very, very deep-rooted coaching where we've kind of split and dissected every issue, and it has helped tremendously. We worked with detachment practices, and within weeks, I have seen that people have reported not only better sleep, but clear decision making. Another thing that a challenge that I see, and you mentioned about challenges, is ethical dilemmas. We call it dharma sankat in Hindi or Sanskrit. That means choosing between two rights and two wrongs is one of the difficult challenges that individuals and leaders face. That has been another common, very, very common challenge that I've seen with leaders. Another thing that you were talking about was toxicity. And well, you know it, and the whole world knows it, that the toxicity at workplaces has just skyrocketed because everybody is anxious, everybody is wanting to do things. I think it's not about when there's a toxic environment in a workplace, and I've seen so many of them. It is not always about bad policies or not proper HR. Those are not the reason for toxicity. I think it is so simple, Dinis, that I think toxicity is because of the unhealed people in the position of influence. When there are people on that position, on that leadership position, who make decisions, who can influence other people, who can create policies, who can create other things in an organization, if they are unhealed, if they come and they operate from insecurity, fear, ego, it will seep into the culture of an organization. Whatever you do, it will still seep in. And once that culture becomes like that, anybody else who comes into that family of an organization will continue that culture unless it is consciously broken down when you inject workspace spirituality or when you inject conscious leadership. I did work with a company where gossip was a lot and it was an SME. But the root cause was a senior leader and who was extremely insecure, and his insecurity came from fear. The fear rooted from his childhood issues, and he completely feared being overshadowed. So we had to work our way around that to understand what was really happening. So the solution is always not a better HR rule. I think we underplay the importance of inner work at a leadership level. I really feel that you heal, when you heal as an individual, heal the person, and the culture of the organization will actually heal. The toxicity will go down, and you will see a flow. And I have seen that flow of good energy, good vibe in that organization post that. But it takes a lot of hard work. It's not a coffee sachet that we will just instant coffee, we'll open it and we'll put it in some hot water and bam, it's done. It takes time. It takes a lot of time, yes.
So picking what you just said, so you touch a bit of this, but I want to go a bit deeper. So you integrate teachings from the Bhagavad Gita and other
Yes.
Vedic texts into modern business practices. So, and you just mentioned the importance of building this culture. So I'll put in a layer of complexity here. So when you have to make decisions as a corporate leader, of course, you have to look at competition, look at performance. And for instance, we have as well all these excesses of Europe where, I think especially in Europe, but as well in the Western world, where at the same time, people have a sense of entitlement. And I have this problem as well. Okay, some people believe, okay, because I am in Europe, I don't need to work as much. And for instance, in Europe, we take as well a lot of fantastic things that we achieve, like rights and things like that. But then we go to Africa, a lot of this doesn't exist. Most of Asia doesn't have this. So at the same time, and this creates even concepts like the woke culture and a lot of other things. So what we're talking here is a true spiritual approach that you can bring to the modern business practice and well-being. But the question is, especially probably that's a question of some leaders, or at least the true leaders that will listen to us will ask, okay, how can we do this without getting into all these kind of issues that happen a lot of the places? And as well, especially when we bring this to technology, because of course, when we train an AI or when we look at the chatbot and things like that, there's a lot of challenges as well. So practical stuff on the negatives and the challenge that we have in the modern world and the competition, all the tariffs, all the different things that we have when it comes to politics and geopolitics, and as well, like you said, inside of companies, because it might be a person that has this kind of energy, a person that has another kind of energy, and the two people collapse or collide, not collapse, they collide with each other. So a bit of how you look at this from your teachings and as well from your best practices and studies and experience.
Sure. So Bhagavad Gita itself, well, when I say I'm integrating the teachings from the Bhagavad Gita, it is, for the world probably who doesn't know about this, it is Lord Shri Krishna who is talking to Arjun. Now, Arjun is an individual who is on a battlefield, very, very, one of the best archers of the world at that time. And he has put down his bow and arrow and he's saying that I'm not going to fight. I don't think I can do it. And he loses hope. And that is where I think Lord Shri Krishna explains these 18 chapters to him about life, about living, about how one should kind of work their way through at difficult times, and how it is important for you to do what is right for you to do. So for him, he's an archer, he's a soldier, he needs to fight. He's a fighter, he's a warrior, he needs to fight. He cannot give it up at that given moment. And there's so much beauty in that particular book. It's not religious, it is life lessons. And so one of my favorite applications from the Gita is Nishkama Karma, which is about performing action without the attachment of the result to what you're really doing. That does not mean that you just do something and forget about the result in the corporate world. It means that when that task is at hand, you're completely focused at the task, giving the best that you can do, and then let it unfold the way it unfolds. So I actually worked one of the sales directors whose team was under immense quarterly pressures that they have for sales, and I asked her to focus on intentional action over the obsession over the outcome. And what happened over there? Of course, we did a lot of work while moving that intention towards actually doing work, then obsessing about the outcome. Is that the team shifted from fear-driven selling, because they were really wanting, the whole time what they were doing was they were actually focusing on the sales and then doing the job. And they were worried about the sales that is going to happen. They shifted that fear-driven sales to value-driven service. And ironically, not only did they meet the targets, they exceeded them, because they were their focus had then shifted. It was a funnel. Their focus had completely shifted to what they were doing. And it was not distracted or divided That was what was going to come after that they've actually delivered their sales. So that really helps. And ancient wisdom teaches that when you focus on excellence in action, and that's what the Gita is also talking about, results flow naturally. In businesses, this transforms leaders. It helps you make decisions short term, from the short term pressure that you have to a long term impact. I think that really helps as an individual in terms of teachings when we talk about the Gita. And there are many more teachings that I think work fantastically well with um, companies and corporates and people. And you spoke about entitlement. I think individual Gen Zs that we are working with, unfortunately, and not just them, I think a lot of people that we know are very entitled to a lot of other things, and ego clashes are happening. I think what needs to be done through the teachings that I kind of integrate is stepping back from the whole scene of act. When you step back and you just do and perform what you need to at that given moment in terms of sales or marketing or HR or just strategy or vision or the planning, without putting your biases involved, without integrating, without infusing your selfish motive in it as an individual, stepping out and looking at that organizational goal, not just yours. I think that really helps. And there are many such teachings that are there in many scriptures and the Gita that actually help organizations take better decisions, look at how balanced, and it also talks about balanced living. It's a very interesting in between of that scripture we speaking about how to live a balanced life, and that's important even at work life balance, which has been a huge thing in today's world. I think when leaders and decision makers understand how to integrate these simple principles in their everyday life, and when they do it, it's a trickle down effect. When they do it, subordinates will do it. And I think that's how organizations, individuals, teams are able to work and do best, integrating the wisdom that is there in the ancient world. And there are so many other scriptures. There is Chanakya is another one. He wrote about economics and how economics should be. And Artha Shastra, it's called. Artha is finance and economics. Shastra is the rules. And those principles also have been brought in while we're doing a lot of workshops and trainings and coaching with individuals. Which principle fits whom, depending on that individual's personality. It is not one thing fits all. It is not like a training model and a checkbox that we have in organizations and HRs. It is, we've got to understand that individual, understand that organization, check that organization's vision, look at what their issues are, then fill the gaps. And that's the way to do it. We cannot just say that this probably workshop or this technique will work for an individual. That doesn't work like that.
So touching this, so one new element that is part of your work and as well your teachings and your consultancy is that you integrate and incorporate neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, and emotional freedom techniques. So you integrate this into coaching. So first of all, if you could describe, because neuro-linguistic is something that of course affects all the AI systems in the world, and then emotional freedom techniques, so which emotional intelligence, a lot of different things. So you could start by the concepts and then go how we incorporate this in coaching.
Okay, so NLP, that's commonly called as Neuro-Linguistic Programming, that's commonly called as NLP. It is basically a program that as an individual, we have messaging systems in our body, right? And our bodies are programmed in a particular way. There's a language that runs through I'm speaking as a layman for somebody to understand as simplistically as possible. A program with a particular language that helps you understand how to behave. And that is the program that runs in your mind every day. So you are programmed in a particular manner to think, to behave, to process, to make decisions, to process information. And when you work with NLP, that means programming your language of your neurons and the messages that it is taking, if it is working in a particular way and you want to shift it. So it's reframing your program. It is changing the path of programming. For example, if you continuously say, I might fail or I might do something, and that's the first thing that comes to your mind as an individual or a leader, a fear factor that is there, that internal narrative needs to be rewired. Now, that rewiring happens through NLP. And that rewiring is going to happen when you constantly change that programming in your mind. First thing that you need to do is unprogram, just like a computer virus, if we can use that as an example. We understand that, we take that off, and then we reprogram ourselves with, let's say, instead of saying I might fail, I'm saying I'm here to share. I'm here to succeed. I am going to do better. And when you shift that narrative as an individual in your mind, it shifts everything around you. And that's just a simple way of understanding NLP. There are many things that happen with programming your mind, rewiring and restructuring the way you think. Now, when you talk about emotional freedom technique, it's EFT. It's basically a tapping. It's a very interesting way of releasing emotional blockages. So when we look at emotional blockages, there are multiple ones. It can be fear, it can be insecurity, it can be something that, and probably a manager or a subordinate has said. It can be something that is related to your childhood, irrespective of what it is. If you're not able to produce, if you're not able to succeed, if you're not able to give the result that you intend to give, and you're putting in all those efforts, there has to be, it's like a drainage pipe system of emotions. If it is blocked, how much ever water that you pour is only going to like purge out again. It's not going to flow through. EFT is a tapping method. It taps. So basically it's got different points on your face, on your collarbones. This is called the karate chop point. And there are tapping method that on these meridian points that will help you release blockages. And fantastically, so for whoever is listening, when you're feeling anxious or when you do not know what to do, or your collarbone tapping will actually help you release that anxiety off. So I've worked with like senior leaders who had intense stage anxiety, who could not speak. We used a lot of NLP to rewire the narrative, and then we blended in EFT because it reduces physical anxiety symptoms like sweating and shivering, because your body is responding to the emotions that you're feeling. When you release those emotions, they can actually help your body feel differently. Within about a couple of months, of course, he was giving a lot of talks and conferences confidently. It worked for him. And these tools work beautifully alongside, of course, different practices like breathing techniques, like meditation, like sadhana. And because it addresses both the mind programming and the emotional body stored stress. I think that is where the integration really works very, very well. I think when people are able to work with both things, not just the mind, but also the emotion. It looks at two layers, and then there's a subtle layer that we integrate is consciousness, awareness, spirituality. So it looks at all the three things together. And that's where the integration, I think, it's superbly fantastic. It's got amazing results. Anyway, even when we are constantly affirming something, I think, Dinis, you probably heard a lot of people are using affirmations right now. It's the new thing that's coming for the last 2 years. Affirmations also are helping you reprogram something. When you say something multiple times, you're kind of shifting your mindset to what you really want. And organizations can help, sales can help, marketing can help. All the people in an organization, I think, will be very, very, this will be a very good way to help them. I worked with an entire sales team once, a couple of years back. I think it's been 7-8 years back. A huge, a very big Tata, one of the Tata brands, sub-brands. We did a huge sales team, and we worked with NLP and we worked with EFT with them to improve confidence, to improve productivity, to improve sales, to improve how they speak, how they process, how to think while speaking. All of those things were taken care with these two things involved. And of course, the underlining is always spirituality and consciousness. When you are aware, I think every shift is possible.
So I want to touch one of the probably most challenging subjects in the workplace, the element of toxicity. So how can we look at this from all the principles that you mentioned? Because this happens, and normally it happens because of the imbalances and a lot of the things you mentioned before. But how can an organization avoid this and deal with this? Because of course it can never completely avoid it, because there's egos, there's vanities, there's as well cultural differences. So I would like to touch that because it's an area of your expertise.
Correct. So, like I mentioned before, toxicity is not just about bad policies or bad people or wrong HR rules or anything of that sort. I think toxicity comes from, like I mentioned, unhealed people in the positions where they can make decisions. I think one of the ways we can deal with that, and I have been successfully helping people do that in organizations, is be open to conversation. I know it sounds very, very simple, but leaders in organizations need to be conscious, and they need to be aware of what is happening with themselves and other people. Toxicity is in the culture of an organization. So not just the team members need to be aware of that. First, you need to understand, why is it toxic as an environment? What is toxicity? Is it just doing something horrible, or is it not being sure of how you've been treated? So toxicity can be different for different people in different organizations, in different environments. We need to understand what kind of toxicity is that organization actually facing. Is it people-oriented toxicity? Is it energy-oriented toxicity? Or is it because of politics in an organization? So that first needs to be understood. Another thing that you've asked is, how can it be dealt with? One thing is, you need to first integrate open conversations. Talk to people with each other. People should talk to each other, or we should get somebody else from outside to understand what is really happening. And when I say that, I think senior managers or senior leaders or people in the senior positions first need to be conversed with, because that issue comes from there. Another thing that you can use to kind of reduce the toxicity is understand where the root problem is coming from in their personal life. So usually people bring their personal life to work. Gone are the days when, I remember when we were younger, in my 20s, they used to say, keep your personal life at home, do not bring it at work. But that doesn't happen. Over the years, we've realized that you cannot leave your personal lives at home. You've got to bring it. You're an individual. You're a human being with all those emotions, and you're going to carry yourself everywhere you go. So you are going to carry the toxicity from home to work. So you need to educate people how to compartmentalize it. That is one. Second, you need to educate people how to tackle with that toxicity. That is a second. Third is, how do you heal that toxicity within you? How do you go back inwardly, look at yourself, unpeel those emotions, unpeel those feelings that you're experiencing, and deal with those situations? Most often than not, when people say that I'm in a toxic environment, sorry to burst the bubble, but they are also very toxic in that environment. And it's not just that other people are being toxic. You are bringing that toxicity, hence you're attracting that toxicity, period. Like will attract that like. Your vibe will attract your vibe. You cannot attract toxicity if you are not as toxic as an individual. May not be at work, but in personal life. at some point in time, you're probably on that frequency of energy. Otherwise, it will not connect. And that is why I think that's the third way to deal with it. Integrating uh, regular interventions from probably a third party uh, who can actually talk to people, invest in people, and understand. Let them be a little more human being uh, than just being a human doing. I think that will help reduce toxicity at workplace. It's not as easy as it sounds. It's a lot of work, Dinis. I think people just say that we will do a workshop and the toxicity will get over. No, that doesn't work, because you're getting to work, you're doing stuff, you working on yourself. Think about yourself when you go to like a retreat or a workshop, right? You do all these beautiful things, you heal yourself, you work with yourself, but then you put back into the situation where there are these, you are back in the rut. You are going to absorb it. It's impossible that you're not going to pull in some back into your clean self. People need to be taught how to let go, draw a boundary of energy, of conversations, of thought processes, of letting go. Letting go seems like something that we talk about only in relationships, but letting go is very important in workspace relationships also. When you keep, let's say, for example, I've had somebody just 2 days back, this individual had kept a baggage of grudge with this person who he worked with 27 years ago. And that still continued, and that poured slowly. Those seeds of toxicity kept filling into the environment that he was in today. So it's not just one today's, but it's a lot of work across your lifetime. And those are, I think, those 3, 4 points are great to start with to deal with toxicity at workplace. And I cannot deny or discount a very important point is it will start with yourself. If you are a leader who's listening, if you are a CEO, or if you're a head of an organization or a team, and you want to create something which helps, or bring in somebody which helps reduce toxicity in your team, first you need to do is understand if you are toxic yourself or not. And I mean, that's important.
It's a lot to digest, and it's a key element. I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we face. And as well, because we are going through a lot of challenge when it comes to the way we percept our cultural kind of, I always like the Arabic concept of like our operating system. In your case, it's Indian, but even in India, there's a lot of different operating systems. If you are Hindu, or if you are Muslim, or if you are other religion. And of course, if you are Christian or Catholic or Protestant, there's a lot of different variations from operating system of cultural. But of course, there's a lot of nuances around sub-layers of cultures. Even between Muslims, there's a lot of different sub-layers. In Indies, there's a lot of others. And of course, in Christians, there's a lot of variations as well, if you are from one country, from one region, from another. So I want to touch this because this is one of the biggest challenge. And as well, you have a concept as well that you've been studying, that is how we can create a leader that can be made conscious. Okay. And is this something innate or not? So I think this is very important. One, leadership is one of the key elements for me. And it's, to be honest, after decades of experience, initially I was trying to be much more conscious about being leader. And at a certain point, I realized as well, and I want to be very honest here for my people, for you and for the people listening to us, is that the challenge is, and it's, if you look in the world, and this is a paradox that we have in the modern world, but I think because we have the most advanced society in history, but at the same time, you have the most divisive society. We have extreme right, extreme left, we have a lot of cynicism, and at the same time, we have, ironically, with all the technology that we build, and after probably 15,000 years of at least civilization, we have a big challenge, is that most of the world population lives in non-democratic governments. So that means, firstly, democracy didn't work completely, okay, although it's probably in theory the best model. And I live in a democratic country, so I probably have some advantages. But secondly, is that the idea of leadership and consciousness is not just for business and technology. This is for political governments. So we still have wars in the 21st century, and it seems like they're not stopping. We still have a lot of conflict. So, and brings me to a personal question that I take as a leader. When I try to be very kind of humanist, and I'm not talking politically correct, I'm talking humanistic leader. A lot of my team, and I have a global team, sometimes didn't take me serious. So when I became more kind of autocratic, and I'm not saying autocratic in negative part, but in terms of more decisive, more willing to push things forward, actually most of my team respect me. So it's a kind of a very strong, and I've been as well in a corporation, without mentioning names, where I had like the most humanist, and I would say very kind of progressive leadership, and it was partly a mess. And then we shift to a completely radical gladiator culture, and it became actually more productive and more organized. So I want to bring this because it's kind of, the theory is one thing, and is when we go to the layers that we start understanding how we can take this forward. So as someone that studies this, and even the point of what is made conscious, if it's something or not, and all these challenges that we face in society, leadership, governments, technology, how can we look at this? And I want to touch this with a lot of humility, because I think it's one of the biggest challenges in the future of humanity. Because if we bring this to the machines, probably they will, at a certain point, replicate what you do, and you might have some science fiction dystopian society where we're actually partly going.
We're already in a sci-fi movie, aren't we? We're already living a sci-fi dream. Well, it's a very, very interesting question, Dinis, and I think it's important to first understand, because when we talk about conscious leadership, I think that concept needs to be a little clear. Consciousness, so when we speak about spirituality, if you speak in Hindi or Sanskrit, the word is called Adhyatma. That means Atma's Adhyayan, that means understanding yourself. That is very important. So that is consciousness. So when you asked about, is it innate as a leader, do you know the leaders, are they innately conscious? I think consciousness is a seed that is there in everyone. For some, it sprouts early. For others, it might probably take a storm to break open. We don't know. But conscious leadership is something that needs to be there, irrespective. Now, when we talk about leaders, and you very rightly mentioned that it is not just companies and organizations, it's governments and it is countries that have leaders, and we have to make conscious choices. We can only make conscious choices if we are conscious about ourselves. I have seen that hard driving, purely number focused leaders have also shifted after experiencing benefits that are firsthand of being conscious. And when I say being conscious, does not mean not being humanistic or being completely autocratic. When we say conscious, it means being present in the moment, seeing the situation, seeing yourself, seeing your biases, becoming more self-aware, knowing that your decisions are coming from the right point of view for the organization, country, or your political party, whoever you're making those decisions for as a leader. They can get you better team trust, get more clarity, and less of conflict. And when you say that, when you are more humanistic or working on a more humanitarian aspect, and you are more liberal, people don't listen. But conscious leaders itself means that they need to get those work done. That does not mean that if they're conscious, they're spiritually grounded, or they're anchored, or they're compassionate. And I'm going to use the word compassionate here. Just because they're compassionate or aware, that does not mean that they will not do what they need to do. Like I was saying, Artha Shastra or the Gita, and that integration, that was so important because they teach you that you need to draw a line, and you say, okay, if I'm taking up a role of a leader, I'm going to completely be a leader and I'm consciously aware of who I am. I need to take my hard calls. I need to do what I need to do. And then those decisions are made. That does not mean I'm less compassionate of as an individual. I'm just being aware of what I need to do at this given moment because that is my dharma. Dharma again does not mean a religion or righteousness. It means what you've got to do at that given moment. What am I supposed to do? So I think if that clarity comes in an individual, and that can only and only come when you become aware, you understand these concepts, you understand how you integrate these concepts in your life of becoming, understanding, non-judging, unbiased, getting clarity, having the courage. I think that is one in two things. Courage and empathy towards yourself are two major pillars of being a conscious leader. And because you will face a lot of things about yourself that you need to kind of uncover and learn and face during your journey of becoming a conscious leader. And for you, for example, that what you were mentioning, just because you are stricter, it gives a very strong personality saying, don't mess with me, do your work and we'll get it done. But that can be done with a compassionate angle too. That can be done with being very, very conscious too. In fact, when you picked up that role of being strict and straightforward and maybe a little autocratic for that given moment, you were making a conscious decision. You were very conscious of your leadership. You said, this is not working for this group of people. I need to shift. That is situational leadership. And that's nothing wrong in it. I think with keeping your compassion at heart, your empathy strong, you don't change as an individual. You do what is right for your people at that given time. And you have to understand everybody is conscious, but not everybody chooses to awaken. Everybody can. The question is, are they willing to look inside within themselves to really want to shift, really want to awaken, or they're blindly playing the game and not being a conscious leader? And when I say conscious leadership, again, don't get me wrong, it does not just mean becoming aware of things around you. It's integrating consciousness, integrating awareness, integrating compassion, integrating righteous behavior, not just for yourself, but the people you work with. I think it's a full package deal when you become a conscious leader. It's not just you who is consciously making a decision. It's an anchored way of choosing, and you can pick up a situational leadership just the way you did. I think that's important. In fact, it's important if you're a conscious leader. You will know what to choose when.
Well, thank you so much. There's a lot of things there. And I believe for people listening to us is the challenge how you balance your personal balance in terms of consciousness, in terms of being a conscious leader. Probably should write more about that. And I probably will do a specific area on that. But as well, how we bring this to daily activities. Like you said, this is a continuous work because you can be strict, but as well being with the emotional intelligence and as well with respect and compassion, like you mentioned. But it's very beautiful in theory. The practice is much more difficult. So you are as well a professor at the Flame University and Symbiosis Center for Corporate Education. So tell us about this and how you balance your role as an educator with your work as a spiritual coach and business consultant.
Yes, so I do teach. I think teaching keeps me very, very grounded and connected to fresh perspectives, especially from the next generation of leaders. There is no need for me to balance here, Dinis, because I think both these aspects of corporate work and education, being an educator as well as being a spiritual coaching consultant, I find that it's the same river with different streams. They're different streams that finally flow into the same river of being able to help, being spiritually aware, being conscious. Because when you're teaching, it helps me connect with the generation that is to come. It helps me reconnect with the child within a lot of people. It helps me grow as an individual. And that is a passion that I have. I teach at universities, not just at the ones that you mentioned, but I've been teaching. I was teaching at Greenwich University a month back in London. I teach across the globe. I mentor across the globe. I mentor students. And I think consulting keeps me grounded also in the real world challenges. That's where, when you said it's easy in theory, but it's difficult in practice, it's very easy to read a book, but for the application, it's a very different thing. And consulting just helps me do that. It helps me with the real world challenges because I'm also a therapist. Kind of, again, it's a whole other area of spiritual coaching and therapy work that I do. I work with people with real problems and we work it through slowly. Like I said, it's not just one switch. It's not a switch. It's a whole big circuit board that we slowly need to shift things. And that's how the practicality of those things are. I treat both spaces of exchange, all 3, 4 spaces that I work in, as exchange, not just instructions in terms of what to do. After every session or after every class, we create a space where we can grow as an individual. And all these things are adapted. So whatever we do in corporate and academics, it's blended in the corporate world. What we do in the corporate world, I usually bring it to the education institutes, spiritual coaching, senior VPs, CEOs, CXOs, CFOs, and other managers, senior managers that I work with. We bring hands-on, everyday, small baby steps that we work. Books and in theory will give you like a big chunk, but how to do it is a very different ball game. We know what to do in theory, but how to do it is a very different thing. And that how and why and when and those little pieces that come with it, like a jigsaw puzzle that fits, that's a very different thing. And education, consulting, spiritual coaching, they feed from each other. They feed each other and they feed from each other. One keeps the mind curious, other keeps the heart practical. I think there is no need to balance for me for the roles. I think I naturally, with divine's grace, flow with those roles. Whatever comes at that given moment, you wear that. I mean, for example, you wear that particular set of clothes when you go to that particular party. It's just like that. And I think it's when you keep yourself as a witness, like I began and I said, when I was 10 years old, I felt as a witness, and I keep that feeling very strong even today. Even for this conversation, I'm a witness to what is happening. So while I'm here right now, I am a person who's speaking to you, and there's a witness that's happening over here. Same way with everything else that I do, I keep myself as a witness, and everything just stays balanced. I think there is no need to balance it out. The intensity and the need for us to balance things out leaves us with a lot of imbalance.
Well, very important and precious areas that we all need to go. And the deep dive on it. So you wrote the book Walking Inward, A Spiritual Wanderlust, and where you explore spiritual journeys. So, and as well, you are looking ahead, working in 2 forthcoming books, Daily Spiritual Guide in Modern Life and Spirituality in the Modern Workplace. So what can leaders and readers expect from these books, and tell us about the books, and how do we hope that we can impact this modern work culture that we've been talking so far, but using these books, there's probably a way to explore it further.
Sure. So the book that's been published is the Walking Inward, which is basically a simple guide. It's a simple book that helps individuals start their journey inward. It's simple 21 stories with anecdotes, with analogies, with experiences that are so real time that you will feel that, oh, this has happened with me before. And it gives you simple ways, simple techniques, like there are spaces, there are chapters which speak about get a sacred space, get a sacred pause between what you're doing. Look in the mirror. There's a mirror exercise. And these are simple steps that can help not just an individual on a personal level, but also a leader or a manager to work themselves, understand themselves inwardly. And it's an amazing handbook to have, with wonderful stories which tells you ways to have conversations with yourself. It talks about how to let go of the baggages, and not just talks about it, gives you simple ways of dealing with it. I think you can get that on Amazon, anybody can. But that's a great book. It's a great book to kind of read through. Another book that I'm coming up with, two of them. There is one which is called Cubicle to Consciousness. That's specifically written, two of them actually. One is that, and second one is The Fool's Journey in the Modern in the Corporate World. So this is basically speaking about individuals and what they can do to blend in workspace spirituality from those cubicles that we're working in 9 to 5 and whatever times that we're working. How can we integrate consciousness? What are the challenges that are going to be there? What are the ways that we can use the procedures we can use, the processes we can use to build more conscious thinking, to build more conscious leadership, to build more awakened team, to build more a team with personality which aligns with each other. So they're more working as a network than working individually and isolated themselves at workplaces. Instead, get better results when you come together as a team, as a universe itself. And daily practices of spiritual daily practices, basically a one-on-one, just a simple way of understanding what it's going to be about everyday spiritual is. It's going to talk about spirituality as an art of alignment, where we're going to understand daily wisdom for spiritual being. And when I say spirituality, don't mistake it again with religion. It's about understanding, knowing, studying yourself. That is what is going to be very important. That's the gist of that book. And The Fool's Journey in the Corporate World it's basically that's an interesting one, Dinis. I think that's the area that I work with, tarot cards, and it's about understanding the business world through the lens of a tarot, because it moves from zero as a fool to the end as a world, and how an individual, when he enters into an organization, he's a fool, let's say, for example, does not know anything, how the journey completely goes through multiple years, through judgment, through justice, through falling down, to being betrayed, to politics, and then comes and reaches to a place where he or she understands the whole world that is within themselves. I think that's the journey that's again very practically looked at, a handbook or a book that's coming.
Well, congratulations on the book, and as well on the upcoming ones. It's very important, and I suggest that you try to get the books as well, because this helps a lot. Yeah. So one of the major questions is AI and spirituality. I would say that is an elephant in the room, a big one. And this is a critical element for us as we get into AI takes over part of the world economy, takes over our lives. There's even studies saying that it's dumbifying us, others saying that it's empowering us, others say that we have AGI, we're going to have a lot of challenges. We've been having some of the biggest personalities in the world. And as well, we have two phases of AI. There are people that are, I think, more like doomsayers and people that are more positive, although I would say the doomsayers are much bigger than the positive ones. I'm a bit in the middle. In one end, I have a bit of understanding of all the risks, and I interview people here in this podcast that are probably the most impressive personalities in the world in these areas. But what I'm very interested is that I think almost no one is bringing the concept of AI and spirituality, because we are right now building large language models that are neuro-linguistic, like you just put it before, programming. And they become quite advanced. They emulate personalities. They're starting already to engage with us. We have right now a big growth of platforms where you can actually date an AI. There's, I would say, AI sex. that you can have right now. And this is not a small thing. Right now, we're talking about substantial amount of platforms for dating AI agents, for engaging with AI agents. So this is kind of, like you said, we're already in this kind of science fiction dystopian. So how can we look at these things? Because right now, this is already there. And I always like to, I'll make the question a bit more complex, but I think you can understand it and come on this is, in one end, we have people not even understanding the power of AI, which I think is 90% of the world population. Because one thing is using a chatbot, the other thing is understanding how this can disrupt the world economy or disrupt the world society. And our child will start using chatbots in a different way that we never did before. The way of learning, the way of even creating consciousness is going to be different, because we would create conscious for books. Now we're going to create conscious with interactive books that are learning and interacting with us as we go. So I know that you've been researching about this, and it's a big question. And I want just for people listening to us to think out of the box and listen to your opinions on this. But how do you see this AI and spirituality with all these complexities and opportunities as well, but a lot of risks, especially with AGI coming? And we have, well, I think most of the scientific AI research developing community is saying that we have it in the maximum. I would say the more skeptic ones, 5 to 10 years, and we have people saying that it's 1 to 2 years. Of course, depends on how you define AGI. So AI and spirituality, a big topic, but I wanted to hear your opinions as a spiritual person, but as well a technologist and a business person.
I think it's a huge question, Dinis. You put a big burden on my shoulder to answer. I think it's been interesting for me always with AI and to understand AI and spirituality. And we've spoken about this before, of course. And I think AI, you cannot escape. It's a necessary evil at the given point in time in today's world. You cannot do without it, because everywhere today we're having a conversation, somebody's recording a meeting, somebody's taking notes. This is all AI. It's helping you. It is not that it's not going to help you, but I truly am the person a little skewed on the other side, where I think it's more dangerous than it's good. I cannot deny the good aspects of AI, but I think from a spiritual lens, AI can be like a fire. It's neither good nor bad, but immensely powerful, depending on the consciousness that is guiding it. I think that's more important in today's world. AI can be intelligent, can have information, it can process, it can do all of those things, but AI cannot. AI can assist in teaching, it can assist in structuring ideas, I think, but can it outsource the essence, the soul's message? Because that comes from a lived experience, and we cannot discount that fact. We cannot discount intuition, or we cannot discount subtle energy exchange between the speaker and the listener. Today, when we met, there is energy that exchanged. Even if you're using AI today to have a conversation, we are still exchanging a particular energy, a vibe between the two of us. AI can help organize the words, but only a conscious human being can transmit, let's say, the rasa or the emotions that are there. Rasa is emotions, and that spiritual flavor that actually transforms the listener. You can imitate a human being, but you cannot imitate you. AI cannot imitate the compassion. It cannot imitate the love. It can imitate the words of love. And when you're talking about dating apps and people, they're very realistic, yes. And I've seen a lot of chat boxes and even chat GPT and a lot of other things that people are talking about, that they're using them for therapy work. They're using them for love affairs. They're using them for friendships. But they don't have the soul in them. They are using information that is being given to them by other individuals in the world, the information that's coming to you as an end user, and correct me if I'm wrong, is biased. It is already processed, and that is being given to you. If a machine can mimic, creativity, intelligence, or empathy, let's say, for that example, because they are being empathetic in those chat boxes, will that make them human? Will that actually give them a soul? And that is beyond intellect. Soul, your consciousness, your essence of being is beyond intellect, beyond memory, beyond personality. It's pure consciousness. And AI might push us to stop over identifying with the mind and start exploring the stillness, witness behind it, but it cannot do it. It can, like I said, it can help you structure ideas, but you cannot outsource it. Um, if you like, a full understanding of this for an AI, for example, I think if you like to have a full experience of for a human experience, AI will not be able to give it to you. For centuries, humans have tried to outsource to people, animals, machines, now AI, so algorithms. But consciousness, awareness, anchoring, spirituality, that is that one job that I don't think can be outsourced. However, you mentioned that people that do not have AI and spirituality. There are a lot of these apps that are now coming up which speak about spiritual wisdom to you. But excuse me, those are borrowed spiritual wisdom, and spirituality cannot be borrowed. It is your truth, your understanding, your awareness, and you have to walk the path. AI can only tell you these are the processes that can help you, and then it's your job to do. So spirituality and AI probably are integrating already, and they're saying we can help you become more spiritual, or we can help you in your spiritual journey, or we can be a spiritual coach. No, you probably cannot, because you do not understand the process of reaching nirvana or liberation or self-awareness. And of course, there will be people who will debate and tell me, oh, but AI can be enlightened, AI can be self-aware. Who is this AI? Does that have an essence? That is one thing. But I don't think AI can mimic being spiritually aware. That is one job, like I said, cannot be outsourced. It can stimulate consciousness, yes, but it cannot experience it. Stimulation is different from experience. It can map your brain waves, yes, during a meditation, great, during your sadhana, during your dhyan and dharana. But can it taste the stillness that you feel when your mind quietens? It cannot. It cannot experience. It can tell you how the apple tastes. It can tell you how the apple grows. It can tell you which color, which flavor, what kind of juice, what are the texture of it. But can it taste it? No. So where AI and spirituality meet is in like an amplification. It serves as a mirror reflecting patterns on our behavior. But I think it's more of an emotional language. I think we have to take it as a mirror, not just take it as a spiritual conscious being. It can help us clear our mental clutter. I think it's a very strong answer to it's a very difficult answer to give you as to AI and spirituality. They are together. Yes, they are together. One can assist the other. It can mimic the other. One can process, one can feel. So there are different things. I cannot deny the fact that AI is going to take up a lot of role in spiritual development in people's beings. Although I cannot, at the given moment, I'm not able to very strongly say this is right or wrong. I skew towards more of it's not going to really help much. At the given moment, I feel it's going to be more disruptive than help. Because spirituality per se is a journey which is inward and very personal. When you move outwardly to get answers, AI is going to give you answers as to how you're going to feel. For example, let's say if I meditate, how will I feel? It will tell you exactly how you feel. Then your mind gets biased towards, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel it. Then your programming happens, or let me feel all of these things. Can it be a placebo effect? I don't know. Probably yes. Hence, I think it's going to be more dangerous in the area of spirituality than health. Technology, yes, I think it's going to be great, but again, it's going to it is going to disrupt a lot of young minds. I feel that it's important. Like it's a funny example that I always use: when the universe took away your tail because you were not using it, and if we were monkeys and they say we took the tailbone, the tail is gone, I think the creativity and our little brain juices might just start fading away because we are not using it anymore. We are too dependent on AI. And consciousness and spirituality and AI can go hand in hand, but you should know where to stop. You really need to know where to draw your line and say, okay, this is enough. Now it's my journey to take over. But more often than not, human beings are such that they're lazy. We're lazy people. We like to get things done easily. And so there's a huge possibility of us slipping into this whole Alice in Wonderland hole of AI and getting lost.
I'm with you on this. I think there's a lot of interesting things that we can, and I will bring this probably to separate the show, is I kind of push in the sense of the barrier between AI, because it's obvious that we're going to have humanoids much more advanced than us.
Yes.
And will be a question of, we'll start having mainstream humanoids in 5 years.
And I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah. So that means, as you know, we did the summit where you participated, and we had this Demona, and that, of course, is it's a quite advanced humanoid, but not at the level that we're talking. So between the next 5 to 10 years, we're going in fact to have humanoids. And there's a science fiction film that I think is the best one that touches this. That is the Creator. That highlights the sense of spirituality and how humans can coexist with AIs and robots and humanoids. Definitely is interesting that film portrays in the sense that the humanoids become friends and lovers and all the things integrated. So I believe that will happen, and probably AI is going to be a second iteration of humanity, because in the end, there is our continuation. So to your point, there's a lot of, and of course, there's my tech geek side, but we're going to have a lot of things in this. So I want just, and I know that we passed the time, so I want to be respectful. So for the sense of time, and then I will be touching more, just for people listening to me, much more of this, and probably I'll get you for a second take just about AI and spirituality and tech with you and other people. But well, on the sense of all the challenge we face as a society. So practical stuff, I always like to try to use the best of what we have, and you have a lot of hats that can actually bring a lot of them. And it's been a fantastic journey here to be discussing these things with you. So last question, what are the key spiritual mindsets and well-being practices that you recommend to professionals, to leaders, to anyone that wants to learn? Because we have different people listening to this that are struggling with the stress, burnout, and as well challenges with the technology in today's fast-paced business world.
Perfect. Before I answer your question, I'm just going to say a sentence or two on what you were speaking before. In 5 years, yes, we will have robots and humanoids. And I think, like I said, we cannot discount and we cannot deny that fact. But if they need to coexist, if spirituality and human consciousness and AI need to coexist together, humans need to become far more aware and anchored. They need to draw that line, knowing who they are. The only way that it's going to get really lost, and which is going to happen, is when humans lose themselves in the process. And this is more possible than the other, that we will lose ourselves in the process with AI. And if you can anchor and keep yourself very, very strong and conscious, I think then the coexistence can happen in a good way. Coming back to your question that you asked, practical ways for the listeners to integrate spirituality in modern world.
And the compassion. I forgot the word compassion, because I know that is one area that you touch and is very important here.
Yes, compassion. Okay, so let's begin with compassion. So if I say compassion is the first thing that you need to work with, then I need to say that compassion needs to come for yourself, not for others first. I think individuals need to integrate compassion for themselves, see where they're going wrong, accept their mistakes, and forgive themselves. One way to integrate, and a very, very strong way for corporates or for individuals or whoever is listening, for leaders, is to look at areas where you think you've done wrong and be able to forgive yourself. I think guilt plays a very huge role in everybody's life at some point in time. If you're able to be compassionate towards yourself, understand why you did what you did at that given point of time because you thought that was the best way to deal with that situation at that given point. When you understand that with love, with respect, with dignity, I think that compassion is towards yourself. I think that's the first thing that we need to integrate. Second couple of things that individuals can integrate, and I believe in simple stuff. I think simplicity. There's a lot of complexity in simplicity, and so if you understand simple stuff, I think you'll be able to solve complex problems, not the other way around. So simple stuff like sleeping well. I think it's such a basic thing. Sleep well. Second is breathe well. And you might say, oh, but that's breath work practices. That's a very Western way of saying it. Breath work, when we talk about it's prana. Prana means life force in your body. That helps you build all that energy within. When you're able to channelize that energy inside your body, there are so many nadis. Nadis means channels in your body. There are 72 million thousands channels in your body that take this energy source up and down your body. If those are cleared, those blockages are cleared, your thought process will clear out. Your mind fogs will clear out. So breathing is very important. And breathing, you can do box breathing. You can do, breathe and stop and then release. There are different ways of breathing practices, they're different for different individuals at different time frames. So ask somebody who can help you with breathing practices. Another thing that can be integrated very easily is get spaces for yourself throughout the day where you can actually cut off from what you are doing completely. You've got to do. So when somebody is asking you're doing nothing, that means you're also doing something. You will have to have some space during the day where you're completely with yourself. No reading, no writing, no music, no nothing. Just be with yourself. That gives you an opportunity to face yourself. And facing yourself is a very huge, big step in spiritual growth and conscious growth. You've got to spend, most people do not know what to do with themselves. They cannot be left alone. They need somebody constantly, if not somebody, then a phone or a reels that they can probably just swipe up or do something or the other, but they do not know how to stay with themselves. So consciously push yourself to stay with yourself for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You can increase the time. You can do that. Fourth thing that you can probably do is use your vibration of your sound of your own vocal cords to get to a space where you're vibrating on a high energy. Then you can use words like happy, you can chant a mantra if you have, whatever positive affirmation that you can use that. If you cannot be positive, that's all right. Just don't be negative. It's okay not to be positive, just don't be negative. It's because it's very easy for people to say, think positive. You cannot think positive, cool, there's no problem, don't do it. But don't think negatively. That's one thing. That's one way, another to integrate. Another interesting way is to integrate mindfulness, which is called Vishesh Dhyan in Sanskrit, in Hindi. That means being present in the moment. You can integrate that while you're eating your food or while you're having a conversation or while you're brushing your teeth. Simple stuff will help you move forward. And that will not just improve your being at that given moment, but it will take you off from the autopilot mode that you're on in a constant everyday life. It will also improve your relationships. It will improve your workspaces. It will improve your work relationships, your decision making, all of those, because you'll be present in the given moment, non-judgmentally. I think these are few things. There are so many more that you can do. You can use spaces. You can use mirror works, which is another way to integrate yourself. Have a conversation with yourself. That's what I talk about in the book also, that you take a mirror and talk to yourself. It might sound funny, it might sound weird, it might even sound a little silly in the first place. But if you have a conversation and you learn to have those conversations with yourself, at the beginning, you might find it a little weird, but as you start talking, you will start unraveling so many things of yourself You will release all those burdens and baggages. You will empty your system out. You'll feel happier and healthier. You'll feel more focused. And you'll also feel a little lighter in your mind and heart to make decisions. And the last step, there's so many actually, Dinis, there's so many I can give you simple tips. But one of the last ones that I would like to give you, which I personally use, is keep an anchor of yourself, whatever that anchor is. My anchor is being a witness to myself constantly. I don't see myself as an actor in the big cinema that we are playing. It's far more than 70 mm. I think the world is the cinema and we're all in it. I look at myself as an audience. I think if you can look at yourself as an audience in what you're doing, as a witness, that will really help you integrate consciousness in your workspaces, in your life, in everything that you are. If you're aware, I think awareness is the key. If you're being aware, if you're being witness, if you're being conscious of what's happening around you, within you, the processes, the thought processes, the churning of it, I think all of that will help you. And and these things, I think the last one, again, I would like to add one more is keep good company. I think keep your company really matters. It's not just work business companies, but also people that you are dealing with on an everyday basis. See if they are helping you grow emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, business wise. Get those people and stay with them. Those are called satsang. Good people that you are with will help you grow as an individual. They'll help you become a more spiritually aware person. I think, Dinis, I can go on with the list.
No, it's a wonderful list, and thank you so much. It's been inspiring, as well, mind-blowing in terms of the questions that we have, because you can go to the, I would say, history of humanity and find a lot of the things we discuss here, but now we have it in different layers. But the challenge is we still need to keep growing, like you said, the day-to-day parts, like something like as important as sleeping, which is something a lot of people forget. And sometimes it's just that we're not just a brain, we have a physical body as well, what you do with your body and all parts. So a lot of the things you touched, from conscious leadership to apply these basic things, other things much more complex. I would love to, well, for everyone listening to us, to learn with you, find information about you and your social networks and in the work you're doing and research. You are as well an expert, but as well a personality that has been always bridging, like you said, not just being on the mountain, and nothing against that, to go to your mountain and do your spiritual journey, but in business is day to day, and billions of people are struggling with this. So it's much more than we think. And I'm probably one of the key areas that takes from this interview is the importance of these details in our daily lives, because a lot of people are struggling, and there's no doubt. And we need to discuss how to take that and take this more serious. Okay, so, well, fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. It's been an honor, Aanshul. And we'll put all the links for people listening to us. Please take attention to spirituality in your lives, endorse it, own it, and learn with people like Aanshul. And she has a lot of things where you can engage with her, from the books to her writings and their social media. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.